This is Eric Riker, and I'm John Kilpatrick with Okolona Aikido in Louisville, Kentucky, USA. And today we want to talk about rolling some. And normally in Aikido you practice on nice soft mats, so you don't have to worry about how good your rolls are in a way. And I know that I've always just rolled where I just roll straight over, and when I've watched Aikido people teaching rolling on the internet, it looks to me like that's what they're doing. And that's okay on nice mats, but when you're on concrete and you roll on your spine, it's very unpleasant, and not only that, it can cause pretty severe damage. So you have to do a lot better rolls than I've ever tried to do, or like I say, I watch Aikido people on the internet, and it looks to me like a lot of them are rolling where they roll on their spines. And most people don't really teach you what you do, and even in parkour or something where they roll on concrete a lot, they don't really teach what we're going to talk about today. And we've gotten into Systema and studying it, and what's the guy's name?
Kadichnikov.
Kadichnikov. Did I say it right? Yeah, Kadichnikov has some really good training on what they translate into English as lower acrobatics. So in Aikido, when you do a forward roll, the way I've always done it is, I'm just rolling like that, where I'm rolling right on my back. And that's very bad news. And what he teaches is that you roll across your shoulder blades here and down your side. Now, from the times I've rolled on concrete and gym floors and stuff, I realized that you had to do that. But I didn't know how to do that. And I'm not any great shakes athlete. Eric's going to demonstrate this stuff, because the first day we started trying to do this, he could do it. And I practiced 6 months or so, many rolls every class before I got where I could do it. So anyway, he's going to demonstrate this for you. So when you should start off learning this in a kneeling position, and what you're going to do here is the opposite. You're going to have your legs the opposite of what we usually do in Aikido, and that is, if right now he has his right knee up, so in Aikido he would roll over his right shoulder. But when you're kneeling and you're going to put your legs over your head, it's much easier to put the leg that's up over your head. So he's going to roll on his left side and have his right leg up. And the way the Russians do this is they put the arm out and show them what. They put the arm out to the side here. And this is by far the easiest way to learn this. So go ahead. And so that would be your practice roll. And you want to show them stopping in the middle of it. So see, he stops there and he's balanced up on his shoulders so that his spine is completely off the mat. And then go on over. Now when you're balancing this way, I can't keep my head off the floor. When I do it standing, usually my head doesn't hit the floor. Sometimes it does. That's why I still do it on the actually I do the pads because I'm a wimp. But I sometimes still hit my head. Of course, you don't want your having your head hit the concrete floor is not really that good for you. It gets old, and having your spine hit gets old. So show that again the same thing. And this, we call this a Russian roll because that's where we learned it. But go ahead and show it again. So he's got his arm here, and his head is turned this way, and his legs are going back over his head rather than coming straight over. And that's the key to staying up on your shoulders. And then if you do that standing, then you would do it like we do a regular, then if you put the leg forward, that you're going to roll over. But when you're doing it from a squatting position and you're trying to learn, it's much easier to have your legs the other way. And then, so that's where we started, and that's where how he teaches it. Now you can also do what we're calling a martial arts roll, which is what you normally do in Aikido. And if you do that starting kneeling, it's the same thing. You still have the reverse leg up, but you put your arm back under, so like this, like you would for an Aikido roll. And let's see, can we do that where they can see your legs go over your head?
Sure.
If we can stay on the mat there. So, yeah. So his legs are coming back over rather than going back over his head rather than going straight over. And so that's your, and then if you do the Aikido roll standing, it looks a lot like a regular Aikido roll, except that you're staying up on your shoulders. You're not letting your spine touch the mat. So you're turning sideways as you roll rather than going straight over. And then the third forward roll that we practice is what we call a parkour roll. And this would be a roll that you would do if you're jumped off the roof or something and you hit and then roll, so that you have a lot of momentum in your roll, more than you can easily absorb. And so you put two hands together and put them to one side. So if he's rolling there, and then you notice when he did that, this forward hand, if I'm rolling on my left arm, he's tucking this under. So you roll your hit on your hands and you tuck this under. You don't let your elbow hit, so that you get that. Parkour people either use a martial arts roll or this kind of roll. And actually, in this lower gymnastic stuff that the Russians do, they do some pretty spectacular rolls where they have that arm out to the side. We're not getting into the advanced stuff, but they get very advanced with these rolls. And then our back rolls, we don't like to, we don't teach it as tucking the leg like this, like you normally do where you curtsy to roll. We don't teach that to beginners because we start off teaching the breath power type throws, tenchinagi, that kind of thing. And it's hard. Uki doesn't get a chance to step back when Nagi's behind Uki, so Uki can't step back. And if you teach them to curtsy and they can't curtsy, then they're lost. So show them what we do on the Aikido roll. So that's what we do, is just sit down and get your buttock as close to the floor as you can. And really what I just did then is the main thing you need to do in our classes. You don't usually get an opportunity to roll back up, and even on situations that there are not that many, there are a few things in Aikido where you really have to do forward rolls, but the vast majority of it you don't. And so then in that roll, in a typical Aikido roll, you're rolling across from one shoulder to the other. The Russians also like to do what we call a Russian roll, and when they do it, they just squat. And that's where if he starts on his right side here, he rolls over his right shoulder instead of going across his back. So he rolls like that. And the Russians like that roll a lot because they can stay, when they roll over, they don't have to go as high in the air as they have to do if they cross shoulders. And they are using these rolls to get away from people shooting at them, and they'd rather not be so high in the air after they roll over. And a lot of times they stay very close to the mat as they roll over like that and flatten out, so that they're the absolute minimum target and they can return fire. So they might be rolling over a log or something that they're going to use for cover.
Let me show that.
Huh?
I'll show that.
Yeah, yeah. So they take this really seriously. They get very advanced with it. And all of that, this is a lot of fun doing. But for our purposes in doing Aikido, really all you need is to just be able to sit down and roll back. And when you roll back, it's important not to roll straight back because you don't want to take a chance on damaging the end of your spine or anything. Again, you want to really protect your spine.